My God.
This is the inaugural podcast.
Creative Grace, Money in Motion.
Buckle
Numero
up.
uno, baby.
I am Shannon Scott, and this is Cory Williams. And, I'm just so excited to be here in this very slick spot. And so, just a little background. I met Cory, I think it was in the end of 2019. And then and then at another event in 2020, he did some teaching, and then it became very clear that our paths needed to be. He's the coach mentor to help me really figure out real estate. Really, that's not the primary is really how to help people find shelter, because that's how we're in alignment with each other, is that we both see, feel, hear, hold space for people making that very sacred and so important, exciting, all the things move in life. And so, but this isn't about real estate. I mean, it can be, but what we're really talking about is what is creative, what is grace, what does money in motion mean, but really it goes all the way down to the foundation of who we are, how we were formed, and how we hold ourselves up every day. And sometimes it's not easy. But the first thing that's the most important to know is that when I connected with Cory, he said, there's a story that you need to tell. I want you to dive into this book and have to be very forthright. I read the pages that I needed to read, and then I set it aside and knew I needed to tell my story. And when I first met it, he wrote out on big poster paper, I don't know what you call the paper, the
Poster board?
Poster board paper, right? And there was like big sticky notes. And he just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I have that, and I still have those. And then I put them in a Word document because that has now become my book. And that's part of my story about money and my relationship with money. But it's there's always a larger picture on the outside. And so, and I know that sometimes we don't always talk about what your story is, or, you get off path in life of what am I really doing? And I'll work hard not to swear. In this, sometimes the words come out. In the right timing. So anyway, so I just want to say, Cory, through all the podcasts that you've been doing, first of all, I rose up to meet you where you're at in your journey. There was a challenge here that was made on Chevron, right? Which is great. It's like, okay, you're going to do that. Well, I guess I'll do this. So for a week, I was going to cancel. And then I decided not to. So, because that would be bad. So here we are, because I wanted to do this for a very long time, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. So my first question is, we're here today, and the story now is moving, and you're telling your story, and you want people to do certain things. But my first question is, what do you need for yourself to, a need? I have a dictionary explanation of that. As a noun, need is a circumstance that's something that's necessary when you think of the word need. And then as a verb, it's something that is essential, like I need help now. Or the human need of needing shelter. And so for you, in what you're doing and your intention this year and through your life, what is it that you need?
Well, I have a very clear answer for that. However, first, I'd like to say I already got a chill up my spine, okay? And if somebody heard me take a deep breath, while you were going through that, the journey that we've had together, which has been incredibly exciting. I just had a flashback to your living room where we went through all of the pages and you wrote your book in a period of about an hour and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many chills went up my spine at that time, and probably your spine, but to get into that flow state of what is the story I want to tell? How do I want to tell it? How do I want to break it out and do all those? So anyway, I wanted to just say this is an incredible journey that we are on together. And yes, what do you know? All of a sudden, I've got my commitment to be on a podcast every week and to tell my story and to share with others. And then all of a sudden, you're moved to meet me in that space, and our journeys collide. Okay, our journeys collide. I don't know if that's the right word, but it sure feels, it's a great feeling of like a great collision, okay, where it's like now we can stand even more firm because we know that now we're together and we're taking steps together in the right direction. And as we were reading earlier, everything happens at the right time for a very specific reason. And let's embrace that. So I wanted to just have a little reflection, let you have your deep breath.
Thank you.
Because it has been an incredible journey and we are just getting started. And for those out there that maybe didn't catch this sort of statement that you made, is this about real estate? Yeah, sure, it's part of the journey we're on. Okay. However, it is so much bigger than that. And you talked about the need for shelter and us embracing the challenge to help people fulfill that need. And it just so happens to be in the real estate industry that we do that.
Yeah.
So, I'll answer your question now if that's okay.
Yes, that'd be great.
Awesome.
This is all about you today.
Okay. There's really one thing that I need that's the essential piece in the part and like alignment that I'm gaining right now, and that is my relationship with God. Okay. So I know that relationship will provide all of, we're going to get into some different things here, but we're going to talk about guides today. You've talked about how we met, and it was clear that I would be a great guide for you to lock arms and go on this journey together. And so the ultimate guide for me is that Heavenly Father. Okay. And so, do I have other pieces of the puzzle? We'll get to that. However, that innate and fulfilling relationship with God is what I truly need. Do we all need water to live? Of course we do. Is shelter really nice? Yeah, it is. However, that need that I'm a sponge and need to be soaked up, it is that ultimate guide for me is to be able to look at the biblical principles and be able to apply them in the things that I do. So that's really the biggest need for me and what I've discovered and realized as time has gone on.
Well, so I like that, and I think it's really important to understand for humans that we're human, but there's so much more about who we are. and you can't, regardless of how hard we try, we're not the only team. We have a team of people working with us, and I just think it's really important to be able to identify that as the foundation, because it just is easier. I don't know. There's a relief that you've got backup. There's a backup plan. There's the guardian angels that show up. The people that show up in your life are there for a reason, for a season, forever, for whatever. And so that it's good to know that, and then to understand that as a need is the easiest way to move to the next question.
Yeah.
So the next question, because we need to know, this is what I do with my clients or my kids, I would do this, or myself if I'm lost. And so my basic need is quiet time in the morning. That is if I skip that, and I do it once in a while, but you have to have that quiet time just for you, just for yourself, and your relationship in our spiritual relationship. And then once we do that, then we're going to be guided. And so the one thing that I know for sure is once we figure out what we need, then we can take that and put that in our relationships in our personal relationships and everything. And then we have to ask the next question is, what is it that you want? And people get really confused about need and want.
Yes.
And so need is of the heart, and want is more the gut. Okay. Even though the gut can be the need, but really in our hearts, that's where we have to sink in first.
Yes.
And then with want, so what does want mean in the dictionary? As a noun, the expression of our desires, right? Like that's what we want to do. We want to express our desires. That's the definition. That's a noun. As a verb, you want something. You want a house. You want a new car. You want better relationships. You want, those, or something visceral, a different relationship with God, right? Whatever that is. But it's it's not a need.
Yeah.
It's a want.
Yes.
So what do you want? Based upon your needs and all that. So now tell me.
Thank you for asking. I don't want to move over, because this is a pro tip to our listeners out there. Shannon just gave you a pro tip. Do not skip over it. Lots of people get confused about need and want. Okay, as I was reflecting on this morning in my quiet time, there was some confusion there, and I had to separate them. Okay, and so it's easy. To our listeners out there, it's easy to switch needs and wants. And even every second it can change of, I really need this. Hang on a second. Let's just take a step back and realize that there's foundation, and then what we want is sort of the building blocks on top of that foundation.
Yes.
Okay? And so I want mentors and coaches. So that's what I want. I need God. I want these mentors and coaches. And we talked about this encounter that we get with people, humans in this life, and how incredible it is, and how amazing it is to celebrate those things and to realize that they have been sent to us for a very specific reason. You talked about the book that I suggested you read. You said, hey, I read a few pages. You take what you need from that, and you are able to then apply. The book, as I recall, was Build Your StoryBrand by Donald Miller.
Right.
And it follows the hero's journey, where a character has a problem that meets a guide that gives them a plan.
Don't we do that every day in our life with whatever we're doing.
Yes.
We have a
Calls them
problem.
to action.
Yes.
Right? Like we did that day in your living room.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. By using different methods, right? Think about the Karate Kid, Shannon.
Right.
Right? Do you remember how Daniel looked at Mr. Miyagi when he said, wax on, wax off?
No, I don't. I gotta
Right?
be honest, but I don't know.
Okay, like he looked at him like, you're crazy. I thought you were going to teach me karate.
Oh,
Okay? And Mr. Miyagi says to him, I promise teach karate. You promise learn. No question, you learn. So that day in your living room,
oh, yeah.
it was like, we're going to go through this process and you're not going to figure it all out until we get to the end.
Right.
And so here we are with 12 pages of the chapters of your book and the breakdown of each chapter. And I said, here's the 12 chapters and the subchapters of your book. And you're like, boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, it's done. And I organized all my writing this March, so it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, will be out when it's the right time.
Right.
The timing is always a timing. So you said something that was interesting to me, that you want mentors and coaches. And I think every person we meet is either mentoring us or coaching us.
Okay.
And the reason is because they're reflecting back who we are as humans, how we're interacting, whether it's the person at the coffee shop or your dentist or your partner or in your clients. And so because sometimes our clients can be our greatest coaches.
Absolutely.
There's more learned if you're open to that. So you have to be.
Yes.
That's the other part that's really important is that if you know your need and you know your want, well, are you open to that? So that's the other question. Because before you can figure out what your intention are, because the third question is really, so you're open to your need, which you're opening up to your relationship, your spiritual relationship, right? And honoring that for yourself, which is really important. And you know what you need, and you know what you want mentors and coaches. And then you want to have an intention that's going to help you get to that spot. And so how are you going to do that? Like, how are you going to figure that out, what it is? Who are they? What do they look like? And what's your intention once you meet them? Or once you meet them?
Yeah. Man, there's a lot to unpack there. So I'm going
Okay.
to get to that. However, you said this really interesting concept of everybody that you encounter is a mentor or coach.
Yes.
Wow. That's profound. Okay.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Don't
It's
you think?
very true, but our listeners that are out there need to hear this and hear it clearly. This is another pro tip from Shannon Scott. Okay, and you clarified it by saying you have to be open to it. Okay, I remember one of my mentors, you mentioned him earlier, is Austin Chevron. We're part of his coaching program. I came off of the stage at my first keynote speech, and I no more than hit the floor. And Austin said, would you like feedback on your speech? Okay. And he calls it a bold move that he made.
Oh, for himself.
For himself to have the keynote speaker step off stage, this big old burly guy with the beard, and say, would you like feedback? And I said, yes, please. Why? Because I'm open to it. And look at what that has opened up. But this is like, he's one of my Mr. Miyagis, right? That guy, I don't know, Shannon, I'm going to talk about the Karate Kid again, because there's so many people have seen the Karate Kid, and a lot of people don't realize he was trying to learn karate from a book, a magazine. And Mr. Miyagi walked in and noticed it, and that's what started their relationship. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to learn how to take on this life in our modern day,
right.
YouTube channels, podcasts, all these things. And really what you need is a guide that can help inspire you. Pro tip, I'm going to answer your question. The word is inspiration, but you need to find that guide that can call you to action, provide a plan, help you avoid disaster and achieve success. That's the end of the hero's journey. And so look at how that has blossomed. Look at how our relationship has blossomed. Look at how I have offered certain things that have helped you to take steps in your life. Look at the things that you've offered to me to help me take steps in my life. Why? Because I'm open to that. Because I know that we did not collide together just for me to be talking all the time. Okay, it's for us.
Sometimes I talk too much.
It's for us to be on this journey together, to learn, to grow. And then I'm going to answer your question now. What's my intention to inspire? It's so clear. It is so clear. I just got chills again. I knew I was going to get chills a couple more times. It is to inspire. What does that mean? Maybe it means coaching. Maybe it means mentoring. So much bigger than that. Because I want to call people to action to achieve their goal. We talked about real estate and how this isn't about real estate, but it kind of is about real estate.
Yeah.
And I don't know of an industry that has bigger egos than real estate.
Financial services, I was in that before.
Okay.
Pretty big egos.
It's top of mind for me, right? Look how many houses I sold. Look at all the production I did. Look at this. And really, what I'm interested in is making everybody else the hero. When I talk about inspiring, I want to inspire people to be the hero of their story. Right. Not my story. I want to guide them into a space where they can become that hero of their story.
Okay. That's a lot. So well, yeah, because that's what you've been doing for me. I mean, that's been clear to me since the moment I talked to you about being my mentor. It was incredibly clear to me that you were going to get me where I needed to go. Now, am I going to say I wasn't resistant? I would lie about that. I was resistant. I can be resistant, but I don't know that it is resistance out of that I knew a better way. What you do, which is amazing, is that you're like, here, try this, and if it doesn't work, okay, well then try this. But there's no and then it doesn't work, or the person doesn't do the work. But at the end of the day, you have to take the tools that you're given, regardless of what they are, doesn't matter, and use and not use them, but hold them, because using is not really I have this book thing. I'd prefer to have the book in my hand instead of
Okay.
on a device. I really like that visceral connection with the printed word. So, I have many books, and some of them I've read 1 or 2 pages, and others I've read the whole thing over and over. So, but what I'm saying is that with your intentionality, with your need and your want, and then wanting people to understand their own hero's journey is, the people that you're going to meet are going to be ready to do that. And those that you meet that are not ready to do that will just fall away. And that really is okay. I think sometimes the teacher in you or in me or the guide or the coach or the mentor sometimes takes it personal when people fall away and don't do their own. But it's not a task, but it can feel like it's a large commitment to yourself. It's intangible. You don't know what you're going to get into when you decide to take the hero's journey. You don't know. And you can jump off if you want. If you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have to. You're the boss of yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
I can't say, my husband said, you're the boss of yourself. Okay. Not sure what that means, but it made me a better parent.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, and a better partner and worker. And okay, this is what I'm going to do for me. You go do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to ask you is, so now you know your need, your want, and your intentions, and you want people to go upon their hero's journey and you want mentors and coaches. And so what is your ask? What is it that you need? What's your ask here from the audience? How can we support you now that we know where you're headed?
My ask for our audience today, and I commend you for, the pro tips are just flowing from your mouth today, because the listeners need to hear it's okay for your story to change, because you're the boss of it.
Yeah.
You're the boss of your story. Yes. And, in my case with, my just journey in faith, right? Like that's why God gave me free will, so that I can make those decisions. Yeah. And when you're faced with your provided new information, then you should process it, and you may want to make a different decision. Austin Chevron says, I'm never too good to make the next right decision. I love that concept.
Yes.
And you said it so eloquently, and I want our audience to hear it. It is your story. It is your journey that you get to shape and mold. And yes, if you do something and it doesn't work and you're still called to do that, do it again.
Yeah.
And so my ask is that anybody that's listening today that has not found that guide, that mentor, that coach, dare I say, their Mr. Miyagi, okay?
Right.
That they really think about, how can I call that into my life? How can I put the intention out there to call that into my life today? So I just want to encourage and inspire people that are out there that, are looking for that confidence, acceptance, direction, right? That may feel lost in the chaos of career or life. Okay. Maybe they're trying to learn karate from a magazine and it's just not quite working.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to learn real estate on YouTube.
Right.
Okay. Like, find that person. Seek out your guide. So that's my ask for people. If anybody wants to have a conversation, they can find me on Instagram at Cory the Guide. Okay.
Creative Grace Homes.
Okay. Creative Grace Homes. Like, we are here to embrace this journey. And if you feel called to sort of take that action and want to reach out to either of us, I think that's a great way. But I just would call on people today to find that guide, find their mentor that can take you on that journey, provide a plan for you, call you to action, and help you avoid mistakes. Find somebody that's made the mistakes.
Well, yes, please do that, because we would love to, you can, of course, reach out to Cory or myself, but don't forget that person, that guide, that mentor might be in your life now and you don't realize it.
Yep.
And so be open to the people who really care about you that sometimes don't feel like they do, or they're telling you stuff that feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, really pay attention to that. But I just want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in and listening to my inaugural podcast. Stay tuned for more. Thank you, Cory.
Thanks, Shannon. What an incredible first experience. What a great extension of our journey together. We always pick up where we left off. So until next time.
Until next time.
So long.